Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive.
Yeah,
We're going to be talking about learning and education for children with autism.
it's going to be a good one.
It is.
We're talking about creating a whole environment where these kids can thrive.
Right.
One of the sources actually opens with this really powerful story about this young boy
Oh, wow.
named Alex, who really struggled in traditional classrooms, but he absolutely blossomed in a school specifically designed for autistic children.
Okay, so that already tells us the learning environment itself plays a huge role.
Oh, absolutely.
What specifically made that specialized school such a success for Alex?
Well, they really focused on creating this sensory-friendly environment. So minimizing anything that could be overwhelming.
Like loud noises and bright lights, which can be really challenging for a lot of autistic children.
Makes sense.
And once they kind of minimized that for Alex, his anxiety decreased so much, and he could actually focus on learning.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like removing those roadblocks so the child can actually access the education
Exactly.
that's being offered.
Yeah, and it's not just about these specialized schools. It's about taking those principles and applying them to any learning environment.
Right.
Understanding what the sensory needs are for each kid and making those adjustments, creating a space that is comfortable and supportive.
Okay, so for parents who are listening and who are maybe trying to choose the right school for their child, what are some of the key things they should be looking for?
Well, the materials really emphasize a school having a proven track record
Okay.
in educating children with autism.
Mhm.
Look for experienced teachers who really understand the different learning styles and are comfortable adapting their teaching methods.
Okay. And a school's commitment to inclusion is huge.
Okay, so what does real inclusion look like,
Right.
practice? Not just saying the right words, but actually creating an inclusive environment.
Well, one study that was cited actually found that students with autism who were included in classrooms with strong peer support
Interesting.
developed much better social skills and had higher self-esteem compared to those who were in more segregated settings. So observe how the school really fosters those relationships and interactions between students with autism and their neurotypical peers.
That's really interesting because it shows inclusion benefits everyone. It's not just about accommodating a child with autism.
Absolutely.
It's about creating a richer learning environment for all of the students.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, a crucial part of inclusion, of course, is open communication between parents and educators.
Yes.
And this is where that IEP comes in.
Yeah, you key.
I know a lot of our listeners are probably already familiar with IEPs, but maybe you could just highlight some of the key things that parents should be aware of during that process.
Absolutely. Well, the IEP is a legally binding document.
Yes, that's important.
It's important, yeah.
To remember.
So parents need to understand their rights and really advocate for their child's needs.
Right.
So don't be afraid to ask questions and bring in outside experts if you need to. And you want to make sure that the goals in the IEP are very specific and measurable and really tailored to your child's unique strengths and challenges.
That's such a crucial point
Yeah.
because I know from reading through all this material that a lot of parents find the IEP process really daunting.
Right.
But it's such a powerful tool when it's used effectively.
It is. It is. And it's a living document. So
Right.
it's not set in stone.
It can be changed.
It should be reviewed and adjusted regularly to make sure it's meeting the child's needs, right?
Exactly.
Because their needs are evolving.
Constantly.
So stay involved and be proactive
Yeah.
throughout the journey.
Now, the materials also acknowledge that sometimes a traditional classroom setting just isn't the right fit,
Right.
even with a great IEP in place.
Yeah.
So what are some of the alternative options that parents might want to consider?
Well, homeschooling is definitely one path that a lot of parents choose, especially if they're worried about sensory overload or bullying or lack of individualized attention in a
Right.
traditional school.
Makes sense.
And the flexibility of homeschooling allows for a really personalized curriculum tailored to the child's interests and learning style.
That sounds incredibly empowering
It is.
for both the child and the parent.
Yeah.
But I imagine it also requires a significant commitment
Oh, yeah.
and a certain skill set from the parents.
Absolutely. You're taking on the role of facilitator, therapist, advocate, all of that.
Right.
The source material really emphasizes that you need to realistically assess your capabilities and resources
Yeah.
before jumping into homeschooling, because it's not just about teaching them academics.
So it's about finding the right balance between meeting the child's needs and also making sure that the parent is equipped
Right.
to provide that level of support.
Exactly.
That's a really important consideration.
And, there's also a whole network of support out there for homeschooling families.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, curriculum resources, online communities, local support groups, places where parents can connect and share experiences.
Right. And it's not just homeschooling, right? There are also specialized schools and programs that are designed specifically for children with autism.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So those might be options as well.
Yeah, a lot of times they have smaller class sizes.
Okay.
And specialized therapies integrated into the curriculum, and the teachers have extensive experience working with autistic children.
That's great.
Yeah.
I imagine choosing the right school or program, whether it's mainstream or specialized or homeschooling, can feel overwhelming for parents.
Yeah.
What advice do the materials offer?
Well, research is key. The materials suggest you visit different schools and talk to other parents and really get a feel for the environment and the philosophy of each program. And remember, trust your parental instincts.
Yeah.
You know your child best.
Absolutely.
You'll have a sense of what feels right.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
Trust your gut.
Trust your gut, yeah.
I think that's something we can all probably take to heart in a lot of different situations.
Absolutely.
But especially when it comes to your child's education.
Yeah.
It's such an important decision.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no one right answer for everyone.
Right. It's about finding what works best for your individual child and your family.
Exactly. What about some specific teaching strategies
Yeah.
that can really make a difference for children with autism?
Yeah, one of the biggest takeaways for me was understanding individual learning styles.
Oh, interesting.
They debunk this myth that there's a single autistic learning style.
Okay.
It's really about encouraging a more nuanced approach.
That makes sense. Assuming that all autistic children learn the same way would be like assuming that all neurotypical children
Right.
learn the same way.
Exactly.
It's just not accurate.
No, not at all. The materials highlight recognizing that some children are visual learners, some are auditory learners, some are kinesthetic learners.
Okay.
So it's about identifying those preferences and tailoring the teaching methods accordingly.
Right. And speaking of tailoring, the materials also talk about the power of incorporating a child's interests
Yes.
into learning activities.
Oh, absolutely. One study actually found that when children with autism were engaged in activities related to their special interests, their attention span increased dramatically.
Wow.
And they were more likely to retain information.
So it's like tapping into that natural motivation,
Exactly.
that excitement.
Absolutely.
So if a child's obsessed with trains, use that.
Yeah.
Incorporate trains into math problems, reading exercises,
It's that.
social skills,
Yeah.
practice, everything.
It's amazing how much more engaged they become when learning feels relevant to their passions.
Absolutely. It turns it into something exciting
Yeah.
instead of a chore.
Yeah.
The materials also talk about visual supports
The visual supports, yeah.
being so effective.
Yeah.
Can you give us some examples of visual supports that parents and educators can use?
Well, visual schedules are fantastic.
Okay.
They provide a really clear visual representation of the day's events, helping the child anticipate what's coming next, and it can reduce anxiety about transitions. It can be as simple as picture cards or a timeline with written descriptions.
It's like giving them a roadmap
Yes.
for their day,
Yeah.
reducing uncertainty, increasing predictability.
Yeah, and then their social stories.
Social stories, yeah. I know those are often recommended.
Yeah, they use visuals and simple language to explain social situations
Okay.
and expected behaviors. So, for example, if a child is struggling with sharing, you could create a social story about sharing
Yeah.
with pictures and text explaining why sharing is important and how it makes others feel.
So making those unwritten social rules
Yes,
explicit
exactly.
and understandable.
Yeah.
What about communication itself? I know a lot of children with autism face challenges with verbal communication.
Right. The materials emphasize encouraging communication through various methods, not just spoken language.
Right.
And for nonverbal children or those with limited verbal skills, augmentative and alternative communication can be life-changing.
I've heard of that, AAC.
AAC, yes.
But can you explain a little bit more about what that actually involves?
Yeah, it's a wide range of tools and strategies that help individuals communicate.
Okay.
So this could include sign language or picture exchange systems where the child uses pictures to communicate their needs,
Okay.
or even electronic communication devices that allow them to type or select pre-programmed phrases.
So it's about finding the method that best suits the child.
Exactly.
and their abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about expressing themselves right. It's also about teaching them to be good listeners.
Absolutely. Active listening skills are crucial
Yeah.
for successful communication. So this involves teaching them to pay attention, make eye contact if that's appropriate,
Right.
and respond appropriately in conversations.
And we can all use a little practice
We can all use practice, yeah,
with that,
absolutely.
not just children with autism. Now, the materials also go into some detail about specific lessons that are particularly important
Yes.
for children with autism. Could you highlight some of those key areas?
Well, one of the most important is self-regulation and emotional management,
Okay.
because children with autism often experience emotions more intensely,
Right.
and they may have difficulty expressing and regulating those emotions. So the materials emphasize teaching them to recognize and label their feelings
Okay.
and giving them tools to calm down when they're feeling overwhelmed.
So what are some strategies for teaching that?
Deep breathing exercises can be incredibly helpful.
Okay.
Teach them to take slow, deep breaths when they're feeling anxious or upset. Sensory tools like weighted blankets or fidget toys can provide comfort and help them self-soothe.
It's about giving them that toolkit
Yes.
to manage those big feelings.
Exactly. And mindfulness techniques can be helpful too, like
Right.
focusing on the present moment,
Okay.
paying attention to their senses.
What about daily living skills?
Daily living skills are so important.
Crucial.
Yeah, for independence.
Yeah.
So teaching things like personal hygiene routines, basic cooking skill, getting dressed independently, managing their belongings, all of those are vital steps.
So it's about empowering them
Yes,
to do things for themselves.
exactly.
And fostering that sense of self-sufficiency.
And visual checklists and step-by-step guides can be really helpful for those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, safety awareness is so important.
Yes, especially for children who might be more vulnerable.
Right.
The materials emphasize teaching them about stranger danger and how to seek help if they need it.
Right.
And role-playing different scenarios can be helpful,
Okay.
like practicing what to do if they get lost
Right.
or if someone approaches them and makes them feel uncomfortable.
Okay, so it's about giving them the knowledge
Yes.
and the skills to stay safe
To stay safe. Yeah.
and advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are some of the strategies that parents and educators can use?
Well, one of the most effective is breaking down complex skills into smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay, so can you give us an example of how that works?
Sure. Let's say you're teaching a child to brush their teeth independently.
Okay.
Instead of just handing them a toothbrush and expecting them to know what to do, break it down into smaller steps.
Right.
First, they learn to pick up the toothbrush.
Okay.
Then they learn to put toothpaste on it.
Okay.
Then they learn to brush each section of their teeth,
Got it.
mastering each step before moving on.
Right. So it makes the process less daunting,
Exactly.
more achievable.
Yeah, and visual supports can help a lot with that.
Okay. How so?
You can use pictures, checklists, even video demonstrations
Okay.
to guide the child through each step.
So it's like that visual reminder
Exactly.
of the sequence and the expectations.
Yeah, and it reduces reliance on verbal instructions, which can be challenging for some. And then there's prompting,
Prompting. Yeah.
which is a technique used to help children initiate or complete a task.
Oh.
So it could be verbal, like saying, now it's time to put toothpaste on your toothbrush,
Okay.
or visual, like pointing to the toothpaste.
Right.
And if needed, even physical, gently guiding their hand to pick up the toothbrush.
Got it.
And the key is to gradually fade the prompts as the child becomes more independent.
So it's that balance of support and encouraging independence.
Exactly.
And I imagine practice is crucial.
Absolutely.
Repetition is key.
Repetition is key. It helps solidify the skills.
Yes.
Builds muscle memory, increases confidence.
And make practice fun.
Yes, make it fun and engaging.
Right.
You can use games, rewards, turn it into a competition if that motivates the child.
Awesome. What about motivating children with autism to learn and to participate?
Well, that's where reinforcement comes in.
Reinforcement.
Reinforcement, yeah.
I know the materials go into detail about that too.
Yes, it's all about strengthening desired behaviors.
Okay. Making them more likely to occur in the future.
So how does that work in practice?
Well, one of the most effective forms of reinforcement is positive reinforcement.
Okay, I've heard of positive reinforcement. How does that work?
It's about focusing on what the child is doing well and rewarding those behaviors with praise,
Okay.
attention, or tangible rewards.
Yeah.
So, for example, if a child is working on sitting still during circle time,
Okay.
you might praise their effort. Wow, you're doing a great job sitting quietly. I'm so proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
That positive feedback makes them feel good and increases the likelihood they'll repeat that behavior.
So it's not just about ignoring bad behavior.
Right.
It's about actively acknowledging and rewarding good behavior.
Exactly.
And rewards can be anything.
Anything that motivates the child.
Sure.
It could be verbal praise, a high five, a sticker, a small toy, or even a special privilege like extra playtime.
Okay, so find what works for the child.
Find what works for the child, yeah. The materials also talk about the importance of choice in reinforcement.
Choice can be incredibly empowering.
Okay.
Instead of saying, this is what the reward is going to be, give the child a few options and let them choose.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it increases their motivation, gives them a sense of control and autonomy.
It changes the whole dynamic.
It does.
From you have to do this to you get to choose.
Exactly.
It's subtle but powerful.
It's very powerful.
And consistency is key too.
Consistency is key. Yeah.
Right. The more predictable those rewards are, the more effective they'll be.
Exactly, yeah.
What about natural reinforcement?
A natural reinforcement.
I know the materials mention that.
Yes, that's about using the natural consequences of a behavior as the reward.
Okay.
So, for example, if a child learns to put on their shoes independently,
Okay.
the natural reward is that they can go outside and play.
Got it. Yeah.
Or if they learn to communicate their needs effectively, the natural reward is they get what they want.
Right. So it's about connecting the skill to a real-world outcome.
Exactly, and it teaches them cause and effect.
Right.
Their actions have consequences.
I love that. So we've talked about positive reinforcement, choice, natural reinforcement.
Yeah.
But I'm sure some listeners are thinking,
Right.
okay, this all sounds great in theory,
Yeah.
but what does this look like with my 8-year-old son?
Okay, well, first of all, every child is different.
Right.
What works for one might not work for another.
Mm-hmm.
But here are a few ideas to get you started.
Okay, let's hear them.
For an 8-year-old, verbal praise is still very powerful.
Okay.
Be specific
Okay.
and enthusiastic in your praise.
Dope.
Instead of just saying, good job, say, I love how carefully you put away your toys. That shows you're responsible.
Right. So it's that specific feedback.
Specific feedback, yeah.
That connects it to something positive.
Yes, and sticker charts can be really motivating at that age.
Sticker charts, yeah.
Create a chart with specific tasks or behaviors and let him earn stickers for completing them.
Okay.
Once he earns a certain number of stickers, he can trade them in for a special privilege.
I love it. It's a visual representation
Yes.
of the progress.
Exactly.
And a tangible goal to work towards.
Yeah, and remember to incorporate his interests.
Of course.
If he's obsessed with dinosaurs, maybe he earns dinosaur stickers.
Yeah, I love that.
Or gets to choose a dinosaur-themed activity.
Make it personal?
Make it personal, yeah.
What about screen time?
Screen time can be a powerful motivator,
Okay.
but it's important to use it wisely.
Right.
So instead of just using it as a default reward, make it a privilege.
So,
Earn through positive behavior.
use it strategically.
Use it strategically, yeah.
I like that.
What about a family outing?
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, plan a special trip to the park or a museum or an ice cream shop
Right.
as a reward for consistent effort.
Yeah, it's a reward that everyone can enjoy
Everyone can enjoy.
together.
Yeah.
So it's like creating those positive memories
Yeah.
associated with learning and achieving.
And maybe grandma calls to congratulate him on a good report card.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Or grandpa takes him out for a special outing.
Those gestures of support and recognition can be so powerful.
You really can't.
So it sounds like reinforcement is about creating that positive and encouraging environment
It really is.
where learning and growth are celebrated.
Yeah, finding what motivates the child
Right.
and using those motivators to help them reach their full potential.
And it's not just about the rewards.
Right.
Right. It's about celebrating progress.
Yes.
No matter how small.
No matter how small.
It's acknowledging those milestones
Yeah.
and reinforcing those steps forward.
And sometimes the most powerful reinforcement is a hug, a word of encouragement,
Yeah.
a moment of genuine connection.
That's beautiful. I love that. One more crucial aspect of supporting learning and education that we need to explore,
Okay.
and that is the power of practice.
Practice is essential.
It is. Why is practice so important?
Well, first and foremost, repetition reinforces learning.
Okay.
Whether it's an academic skill or a social skill, consistent practice helps make it stick.
Okay.
It's like building muscle memory for the brain.
So it's not just about learning the skill once.
Right.
It's about embedding it through repeated practice.
Exactly. And as children practice and see themselves succeeding, it really boosts their confidence.
That makes sense.
And it can also help reduce anxiety because familiarity with the task makes it less daunting.
Practice breeds confidence.
It does, yeah.
I like that.
And it also helps with generalization of skills.
Yeah.
So what do we mean by generalization?
Yeah, what do we mean?
It's the ability to apply a skill in different contexts.
Okay.
So if a child learns to tie their shoelaces at home,
Right.
they need to be able to do it at school or a friend's house.
Right, so practice in different environments
Different environments, yeah.
is key.
It helps them adapt to new situations.
Okay. And practice also plays a role in behavior reinforcement.
It does, yeah.
Right.
By practicing desired behaviors, we make them more likely to happen again in the future.
It's like building those good habits.
Exactly. And practice has a profound impact on social skills development.
Oh.
It provides opportunities for social interaction.
Okay.
Practicing turn-taking,
Right.
sharing, initiating conversations.
And a chance to kind of try things out.
Yes.
In a safe environment.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And don't forget the cognitive benefits.
Oh, right.
It encourages critical thinking, problem solving, memory retention.
It's like a workout for the brain.
It is a workout for the brain.
And practice provides opportunities for feedback.
Yes.
Right. And improvement.
It's not just about mindlessly repeating a task.
Right.
It's about reflecting on the practice and identifying areas to improve.
Exactly.
It's a dynamic process.
And, I think what's interesting is that practice can also help with emotional regulation.
Absolutely.
How so?
Well, through practice, children can develop and reinforce coping strategies for managing emotions.
Right.
Anxiety, frustration.
Makes sense.
It can also be an opportunity to practice those mindfulness techniques.
Right.
Which can enhance self-awareness.
Okay, so practice is really a cornerstone of this whole thing.
It is, yeah.
It's something that parents, educators, therapists can all work together to encourage.
Absolutely. By integrating regular practice into daily routines, we can really help children with autism thrive.
They reach their full potential.
Exactly.
Wow, it's incredible how all of these pieces fit together.
I know, right?
The learning environment, the teaching strategies, the reinforcement, consistent practice. It's like they all work together to create that really supportive.
That's holistic, yeah?
Yes. Holistic is a great word for it.
Yeah, and it's not just about teaching these specific skills.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating this lifelong love of learning. The source material actually highlights fostering intrinsic motivation.
Okay, so helping them develop that natural curiosity
Exactly.
and desire to learn, not just relying on external rewards or pressure.
Exactly, yeah.
That's a great point.
One study found that when kids with autism were allowed to explore their interests and direct their own learning, they showed way higher levels of engagement and a deeper understanding of the material.
So how can parents and educators encourage that intrinsic motivation?
Give them choices, yeah. Let them have a say in what they learn,
Okay.
how they learn it, how they demonstrate their understanding.
Okay.
So that might be incorporating their interests into the lessons, providing options for projects, maybe letting them set their own learning goals.
It's like they're an active participant in their education,
Yes, exactly.
not just passively receiving information.
And it's about celebrating their unique strengths.
Right.
Autism is a spectrum, and each child will have their own unique abilities and challenges.
So embracing that neurodiversity
Absolutely.
and recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all.
No one size fits all. No
Immediately.
approach to education.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint.
It is.
There will be challenges, setbacks,
Right.
moments of frustration.
And that's where that resilience comes in.
Yes.
And a strong support system.
Yes.
The materials talk about parents and educators working together.
Working together, yeah.
As a team. Open communication, collaboration, being willing to adapt and adjust.
And it's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely.
There are therapists, support groups, educational specialists
All kinds of resources.
who can provide guidance along the way.
Yeah.
So for our listener, the parent or educator who is on this journey with a child with autism,
Yeah.
what are the key takeaways?
There is hope.
There's
With the right support, understanding, and a belief in that child's potential. Incredible things can happen.
I love that.
Remember that education is not just about academics. It's about equipping these children with the skills to live fulfilling lives.
Right, to navigate the world
Yes.
with confidence
Absolutely.
and to contribute their unique gifts.
I'd like to leave our listener with one final question.
Okay, I like it. I'm intrigued. What's the question?
Okay, think about the specific challenges this child is facing,
Okay.
and then imagine those challenges as opportunities for growth and innovation.
Okay.
How can we, parents, educators, as a society, transform those challenges into strengths, into pathways for creating a more inclusive and accepting world?
It's about shifting our perspective
It is.
from limitations to possibilities.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing that diversity, including neurodiversity,
Yes.
is a strength,
Absolutely.
not a weakness.
Powers.
And a reminder that we all have a role to play
Yeah.
in creating a world where everyone feels valued.
I love that. This has been such an insightful and inspiring deep dive.
Thank you.
I have learned so much. I'm sure our listeners have as well. My pleasure.
To our listener,
Yes.
keep exploring, keep learning, and keep believing in that potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a perfect note to end on. Until next time,
Yes.
keep diving deep and keep those curious minds engaged.